Hello and welcome everybody to another fabulous, because it will be fabulous, episode of Exponential Potential. And we are diving into a new theme this month, and we are in February. So, for those on catch up, we are recording this through February. So, February we know is all around love, and whether that's self love, relationships, intimacy, relationships in the workplace. We are going to be covering a whole host of topics, and it's a great lead follow on from our last month, which was all about being bold and being you in a gentle way, but really tuning into self expression and who you truly are and allowing yourself to be who you truly are, and all of your glory. So, welcome, Claire. It's so good to have
Hey,
you.
and spoiler alert, this month we are not looking for you to please your man in a Cosmo style or kind of all of that malarkey. We're not going to find some really naff connection as to why you should buy our stuff because it's Valentine's and you should share the love. All of that commercial stuff is just nonsense. So we've got a series of episodes coming up this month where we kind of get down dirty and get talk about the warts and all of love, and and how you can thrive, how you can be exactly who you're meant
Blossom.
to be.
You
Oh,
can
that's a
blossom.
beautiful word.
That's why I'm wearing my flowery dress today. Because I feel when we get rid of the protective layers, all we want, and it sounds cliche, but it's cliche because it's true. All we want is to be loved, to give and to receive love on an equal, respectful footing with that juicy, delicious connection.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and today, so we are, and I don't know about you, Claire, but I certainly had relationships in the past where they were really difficult to move forward from, and they kept me stuck, and they then connect created patterns in other relationships. So today we are talking about releasing the grip of past hurts and loves.
Yeah,
You
it's
know that.
it's a biggie, really. That kind of that past hurt, and you know, I've got friends who met people in their at school or when they were teenagers, and lived happily ever after. But for so many of us, that's not the case. That's not the case. When I met Steph, it's like I've kissed lots of frogs. Definitely kissed a lot of frogs,
Mhm.
but
Same.
kind of that's what it was, right? And it's those past relationships that do start to shape where you go or your expectations. But it's not just in those love relationships. They can, cause real havoc and damage because they're such close relationships that you have.
Yes, and we bring the baggage, that emotional baggage, into, as you said, into not just relationships with partners, but relationships with other people, with our family, at work. You know, that you get that one person that really reminds you of your ex, and
Mm.
they just trigger you left, right, and center. So we want to really sort of focus on how to let go of that, how to release that hurt, so that you can be fully yourself without protection, without looking for evidence and proof that your relationship that you have is like previous relationships you've had. I don't know
Mm.
whether you've experienced that, Claire, in terms of looking for ways. Look, for example, I had experiences with people that have cheated on me, and I've brought that into my next relationship, and I'm looking for ways of to distrust them. And are they telling me the
Mm.
truth? Are they where they say they're going to be, or where they are? And it starts to create this form of control and jealousy and anger. Um, so that's just one element of how we bring what we've experienced in the past into a present relationship.
Mm. Oh, yeah, definitely. And I know kind of how long some of those aspects of past relationships have affected my confidence in
Mm,
different fields. You know, for with an ex for many years, kind of in terms of um, his treatment in terms of our relationship, my confidence was just zapped. It really was, whether that be body confidence or confidence at work, kind of so many different layers that I'd surrendered. Yeah, to
mm.
him.
Yeah, so confidence is a big one, isn't it? When someone's not listening to you, even, or they're bulldozing everything you say, they're not taking on board what you're saying, they're not taking into consideration your thoughts, ideas, feelings, and you just feel like you're not being listened to, and what you have to say isn't worth a thing. So that has a massive impact on communicating with others and expressing yourself, whether that is in the workplace or in other relationships.
And expressing your needs that they might even be met. You know,
Hmm.
it's,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah, and
yeah.
and also in terms of sexual relationships, when I had a partner where they just had no interest in sex
Mm,
and intimacy. In fact, two when one of my my husband, my second husband, just he was so interested in the bottle, and getting drunk that I wasn't close to being on his radar. A total disconnect, and that eats away at you. It eats away at your confidence. It
yeah.
awaits eats away at well, I can't be sexy anymore. I'm not attractive anymore. Yeah, and it does. It impacts you when you present yourself in a meeting. It
Mm.
impacts you when you're having conversations with people. Yeah, and you just feel blur. So you dress blur, and
Yeah,
don't you?
and
And
and also, particularly in longer term relationships, sometimes you can be trapped in the identity of the person that you were at the beginning of the relationship. Even though you grow, you're still like stuck there. And you know, one of my first really long term relationships, 5 years, and that kind of covered from university and leaving university, and then starting to develop a professional life and new friends. But you kind of want to make the transition to be that person, to kind of have the Sex and the City lifestyle and the glamour and everything else, that but you're not, you're stuck because that's the person that they fell in love with, and that's the person that you are at home. Almost so it's betrayal of that relationship to become this new person, whereas actually it can evolve. And there's all these nonsense things that you get. So for example, he used to moan that I'd drink coffee and that he would tell me that my breath smelled like his dad's when I'd had a cup of coffee. And it's like, what's looking back at it, it's like, that's just rude. It's nonsense as well. I used to be really self-conscious about it. And the first thing I did after we split is I bought a potato masher because I hadn't had mashed potato for 5 years because he hated mashed potato. I was just like,
wow,
it's mashed potato.
wow. Yeah, we do really bend, don't we, into wanting to keep a partner happy, and we lose our identity and we lose who we are, and we make their needs and their wants more important than our own. Um,
Mm.
yeah, and again, that's stuff that we bring into another relationship. So we have this repeating pattern until we actually stop and take take stock of actually what do I want, and what patterns keep repeating, and how can I change that rather than relying on the other person
Mm.
how many times, oh gosh, this is something that happened a lot when I was younger. How many times did you come across someone that was, we, for some reason, we are attracted to a bit of drama. I certainly was when I was younger. And I would always go for the bad boys, because they
Oh,
were dangerous and they were exciting. And there was this element of, oh, well, I could change them. It's like, oh my God, what a waste of time and energy that was.
well, the thing about the bad boys do know how to make you feel good. May not be
Yes, yes,
consistent, but I think
yes.
that's part of the seduction is to just feel amazing. So certainly in in times when I was single, yeah, they're a
Mhm,
really good ego hit
mhm.
for however
Yeah,
long they're an ego hit for.
yes. Usually not very long. And and you also feel crappy afterwards as well, don't
You
you?
f Yeah, it's like a drug, isn't it? It's like,
Yes.
"Ah," and I think that kind of it strips away our femininity in a way because you do feel you in that moment, you feel like a goddess. You really do. You just feel so sexy, glamorous, wanted, and you like it a lot, but then it goes and you feel really empty, and
Mhm,
then you feel cheap, and it's like, "Well,
mhm.
why can't you feel like a goddess, yeah, more
Yeah.
often?"
And I think that's one of the things of how to let go of that pattern is to stop expecting a partner, whether that's a sexual partner, whether that's a friends with benefits partner, whether that's a relationship, to stop expecting them to make you feel like a goddess. And
Yeah.
you get take your power back and you take back that, and you're responsible for feeling like a goddess. Because if you're
Yeah.
relying on somebody else to make you feel good, to make you feel happy, to fill your cup or fill something,
It's
then
like, "You look
they,
gorgeous." Yeah.
yeah, then they can take that away in a second
Yeah.
by some sentence, a word, a look, a
Yeah.
behavior.
Yeah.
So,
Intentionally or not as well.
yes, yes, it's not necessarily intentional. And also, I just want to say, men that do behave in that way in terms of, you know, that sexual god that I am and you will do what I say, or or I treat you this way or that way. Mostly they're not doing it deliberately. Mostly they're doing it to protect themselves. I've had quite a few boyfriends where they weren't available emotionally or physically. They weren't had a really interesting friends, but
Mm,
he was never here. He was a chief engineer on a super
mm,
yacht.
mm.
And I think I've mentioned he had a girl in every port. But wow, when we were together, he treated me like a princess.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah.
wasn't deliberately, he's just so frightened of committing to any one woman because he'd been so hurt in the
Yeah.
past that he couldn't do that. And I think a lot of men that um cheat are either have an addiction to that rush and that excitement and that drama and that danger, or again, they're protecting themselves because what if their partner leaves them and they're fearful of being alone? You know,
Yeah.
the that doesn't make it okay, doesn't give them an excuse to behave like that, but it kind of helps you when you see things through a different point of view. You helps you see that it's not all about you.
Mm.
And it's easier to let go of that then, I think, to let go of being hurt and being cheated on or being lied to or not being a priority because it's not actually about you. And that makes it
Yeah.
easier to let go of and to go, okay, that was where they were. That's them in their space. And actually, I'm better off without that. And is there anything I can do to change my behavior or because our behavior comes from our thoughts and our emotions. So one of my thoughts was always, well, men are all a bunch of assholes. So, hey, guess what I was attracting?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's something really powerful about taking ownership of what is yours
Mm.
and rejecting ownership of what's somebody else's. And we've talked about that in relation to saboteur types as well, haven't we? It's like, oh, this is the lane that I'm in, so I can spot when I'm in this behaviour. You'll have your own saboteurs as well. They're going to play. There's always more than two people in a relationship. There are multiple people in the same relationship. Um, but it's like, well, that belongs to you. And sometimes it doesn't even belong to them. It belongs to their ego or their saboteur. But we're so, particularly in intimate relationships, we're so embroiled in it. It can be quite difficult to unpick, to step away, to be rational around some of these aspects. Yeah,
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to let go of, even though you know that that person isn't for you, that it's just it's either convenient or I don't know if you've had a relationship where you found it really hard to let go of that person and you just keep coming back in circles and you're together and then you break up and then you're together and you break up and you're together and you break up.
mm,
And it can go, there's a cycle that can take a couple of I've known clients that have been in that cycle for 2 or 3 years.
yeah,
And every time they try and move on, they get sucked back in again.
yeah. But I can only imagine the amount of judgment that they have of themselves. It's like, what am I doing back here? It's just, it's not, and so kind of they take on loads more and feel caught in that pattern. I haven't experienced that firsthand, but definitely have girlfriends who, in the past have been caught in that.
Yeah. And then it affects your friendships because that's all you talk about.
Yeah,
And then your
yeah.
friends sort of take a step away because they're like, oh my God, this is enough already. Get over it, move on. You just how can you not see that this is not working for you? So you can lose friends over it because
Mm,
that's all you talk about. And your whole life revolves around this circle of relationship in and out. And I think one of the reasons for that, well, there's a couple. One is you don't want to be alone. Two, it's like, well, what if it's different this time? What if they do change? What if they do say what they're going to do? And there's hope. Um, but deep down, if you, again, if you create some space and really sit with it, you'll realize actually that if you were supposed to be together, this relationship would be easier. I'm not saying that relationships are all easy, um, but when there's a relationship that's where your values aren't matching and you are constantly, you have these major highs and major lows, the relationship needs some balance. And there comes a point where enough is enough. So, how do we step away from that kind of relationship? Or how do we step away from the people that are interfering in our current relationships or stopping us from moving on? I think that's a good question to delve into.
oh, definitely, definitely. And even if the person isn't physically present, how do you release those energies? So over the last 12 months, especially, I've been examining forgiveness. So Vishen Lakiani and the six phase meditation, which is a daily practice. There's an element on gratitude, there's an element on visioning, but there's also an element on forgiveness. And sometimes you forgive small actions, sometimes they're bigger actions. Sometimes you're forgiving yourself, sometimes others. but that's forced me to examine some past hurts, and really start to look at that. So the kind of activity that it is you you hold the power and kind of, actually, before I even get into that, for me, forgiveness is, it's not necessarily letting the other person off the hook or accepting that what they did was right. It's actually giving yourself permission to move forward. And so very often people go, well, I can't, how can you forgive someone who's done that? It's like, well,
Mhm.
when realize that the trade-off of that is that you leave that thorn in your body. You always have it in your body. And actually what I want to do is take out the thorn and help you to heal and move forward. So for me, forgiveness is, let's release that hurt. The activity is still wrong. The intention is still wrong, but have to release the hurt, have to, keep moving forward. But it's a beautiful, quite quick meditation visualization where you're in control. And I go to a monastery up in the mountains, and this big courtyard, and they're in front of me, and I'm on this throne. Like, so I'm the queen who's up high, and I say what they did wrong, how that made me feel, the hurt. I allow them space to respond. Again, kind of imagining how they would respond. And then we move forward. And then I release that place. So it's quite conceptual, but it can be a way to revisit that past in your terms and let it go, let it move forward.
I think what you said there about forgiveness is really important, that you're not you're not letting them off the hook, you're letting yourself off the hook. You're taking that hook or that thorn out of your back, your shoulder, wherever it is. And what's interesting from a metaphysical point of view is when we have something, because we can have a metaphysical hook in us, you actually might experience pain in the body, physical pain, or a tension or a knot under a knot somewhere, or even your stomach. So by you saying you are allowing yourself to step into your peace, and you're saying enough is enough. I am not giving this person or this situation any more energy,
Yeah.
because your energy is far better spent somewhere else,
Mm.
isn't it?
And the word that comes to mind for me there is grace. And I think grace is, it's such a beautiful word, often seen as the feminine, but it can equally apply with the masculine. But grace is, it's okay. Well, it's not okay, but I let this pass because I
You
don't
know,
want it to be in me.
yes. And how often have we had an experience or been in a relationship where it has really held us back from creating another relationship that is deep, feel that, that deep connection and love and respect and fulfillment? So why would you allow somebody else's behavior, how they've treated you in the past or what they've said to you in the past, why would you allow that person to continue having power over you and stop you from having the relationship that you really, really, truly want and deserve?
Mm. And it is challenging as an activity, I've got to say. I mean, Denise
Mm.
Duffield Thomas, for example, covers aspects of beliefs around money, and you unpick all your beliefs about money and where they come from. but it's challenging to look at what beliefs came out of that relationship, and it's so enlightening when you examine that, and then you kind of go, well, I don't need this. I don't need
And
this, and I don't want this. Let this go.
and
Let this pass.
are they true?
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time when you sit with that, and it does sound quite scary, and there may well be tears of release.
Mm,
I just want to make a note on release. On, I mean, we talk about feelings, but tears. If there's been a study that, depending on how you feel and what you're crying about, depends on the chemicals that are found in your tears. So most of us know that tears are a release and that they're
mm.
healing, but it's been scientifically proven that you are physically releasing the chemicals in your body that's causing
Wow.
you that pain.
Wow.
So crying, and you are physically, because physically releasing it from your body. Your body is expelling it. It's like a cleanse. And we all know that, yes, we might feel quite drained after we've had a really good cry, but most of the time, and I mean, grief is something different, but most of the
Mm,
time we will feel lighter when we've had a good cry.
yeah.
So, it's very healthy to allow those tears to come and to flow. It's just how long you want to keep them going. We don't need to we don't need to stay stuck in that sadness. And the difference between, I've had some really good conversations recently with a client about, she's been going through some very in-depth things, and she got herself in a spiral of crying and crying. So the question I asked her was, how much of that crying was because of the hurt, and how much of that crying was judgment?
Mm.
And
Mhm.
because we get so mad at ourselves and beat ourselves up with this judgment, that creates more angst and more emotion
Mm.
that's not necessary. And as soon as she realized the judgment that she was putting on herself, she was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, yeah, it's not all about that. It's 70, 80%. It was over 80% actually was judgment.
Yeah.
So yeah, judgment is a powerful thing, and it really does bring us down and keep us in that spiral.
And we would never treat other people, especially people we love, the same way that
Mhm,
we treat ourselves. It's
mm, mhm.
yeah.
And one of the ways that I've let go of relationships in the past is because there's this other thing about, oh my God, but he's the one, or what if he's the one? So we hold on to that. And one of the things, it's, well, if he was the one, would it really be this difficult?
Yeah.
Would it really be showing up like this? Or is there work that I need to do on myself? Or would this really be showing up? And maybe I'm not ready. Maybe I'm not ready for the one yet. And being able to let go of, well, there's more than one. You
Yeah.
can imagine, in these
Yeah.
billions of people on this planet, and there's just one person.
Yeah. And again, that's a belief system that is not held in all religions or countries or over all time. It's a belief system that gets trained into us from fairy tales and what we see
Yes.
in the past. And
Yeah.
it's fabulous to have those lifelong relationships, but they're not always healthy for everybody that's involved in those or around those relationships. It's just, yeah.
Mm. And I think yes, because I remember being in my early 20s and thinking that this guy was the one, and it didn't work out. And it took me 2 years to move forward. It took me 2 years to let go, because my belief system was so much so that he was the one. And it took me a long time to realize, probably my early 40s, that there's no such thing. And looking at it from a different perspective of, well, what lessons did that show me? So these are the things that I liked in that relationship. So these are the things I want to carry forward with me in the next relationship. And these are the things that I don't want in my next relationship. So it's kind of giving you clarity each time into another relationship, of the relationship that you do want, not the relationship you think you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
Yes.
another way, yes, because that's another way of
Yeah.
stepping forward and moving forward and letting go of those older patterns, is to
Yeah.
realize, actually, I'm learning from this, I'm growing from this. This is contrast of what I want and what I don't want.
So, do you have any go-to activities that you might use or you might recommend to
Yes,
people?
what I find with clients, some of the things that are really powerful, there's two things actually. One is I use body techniques, and releasing the hurt within a body. So the one of the official titles is somatic healing, but I don't say that I'm a somatic healer because I haven't done the course. But I use a combination of somatic healing, NLP, and other release techniques that involve the body. So we feel where the discomfort is in the body, and we gently and easily, with ease, release that and allow it to come up. And it's in a very supportive cocoon and loving, non-judgmental environment where my clients feel safe. So that's a really powerful way of releasing something.
Mm.
Another, which is kind of visualizing that you've got this cord and it's attached to somebody. I mean, before we started this recording, we were talking about that, Claire, and I know that you've used that.
Mhm.
Um, and you were saying, when you've got a relationship, if you have children and the father is on the scene quite regularly, um, that can be really difficult dynamic. So you
Mm.
can use that as well, not just to release an ex, completely release, but to also change the dynamics in the relationship with
Yeah.
someone that's still in your life, but not as a partner. So I use Archangel Michael as a visual, and he has this incredibly powerful sword, and I visualize it in blue flame, and it kind of cuts through that cord, and you visualize the attachment fizzling, dissolving away. Um, and that's also, the clients feel a lot lighter, and they're like, oh my God, that actually, I physically felt it. Even though
Mm.
it's, we're visualizing
Mm.
something, physically feel that release.
Mm.
And I also do a little bit of healing, distant healing as well. So there might be something like we were talking about before, a hook or a thorn in the body. So we kind of visualize what that looks like, the size of it, the texture, the shape, and visualize that. And we just sit with it, and we do some healing on it, and it just diminishes. It just gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it disappears. That's really powerful, and it astounds me. It does, honestly, astounds me at the power of it, and that my clients can physically feel this thing in their body, and then it just dissipates after 5 minutes, possibly 10 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer, sometimes less. And they're like, oh my God. And it's so freeing for them.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and kind of, I don't know that science. Well, my knowledge of science isn't good enough to explain it, but so science may have caught up since. But pain and sensation is it's just an electrical impulse. It's a it's a piece of information that's going from one part of your body to another. Similarly, emotions are electrical impulses within your brain. Yeah, kind of in this experience. So why why wouldn't they be closely linked?
yeah, I mean, it's all part of your body being that antenna and inner guidance system for you.
Yeah, yeah.
And listening to your body. I used to find it really difficult whether I was coming from my heart or coming from lower down, relating to relationships. that sometimes that amazing chemistry that you have with someone, but they might not be
Yeah.
good for you.
Yep.
There's a lot of confusion around that. Um, but I think emotions are things that come from the brain. So emotions are caused by the thoughts we have, and mostly our ego, the judgment, the inner critic, judging other people. And then feelings are your body letting you know that something's out of balance, that something's going on. A thought that you're creating, a thought that you're having is creating this feeling in your body. So your feelings are allowing you a path to alignment. So it's really important to take notice of what you're feeling in your body and where you're feeling. Uh,
Yeah.
Another really good tool that's practical and that you can do by yourself, and I found clients have found this very helpful, is writing a letter of how you want to continue either with a relationship with someone that's no longer your partner but still in your life, or that you want to let go of a previous relationship, and you write them a letter from your heart of what you want to be or how you want it to be. So, for example, if this is someone in your past and you want to let go of the ties, you want to let go of the emotional baggage, you set an intention of, I want to be free of this. I want to feel free. I want to feel open to receiving real love. And you write them a letter of how they made you, similar to what you did with the vision. You write a letter of the behavior that they showed or what they said or how that made you feel, and that you're saying goodbye to that. Thank you but no thank you, and goodbye.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
you don't give them that letter, you don't need to. And if you feel, I like, you can burn that letter outside at night under a moon, a full moon or a new moon, and you just let that go up into the ethers.
Mm.
And you can do that
And
with somebody, sorry, you can do that with somebody that's still in your life, and how you want to move forward with that person. And it shifts
mm,
your energy and it shifts their energy.
mm. And what I love about that is even though that's a deeply spiritual act, as humans, ritual helps us to process and transform. So it's a beautiful act to do that.
Yes. And it's not a mistake that rituals have been around for thousands and thousands of years. And we're not talking about, I was talking about ritual the other day, and of course, a friend of mine, her husband goes, "Oh, what, you're using goats?" It's
Yeah.
exactly where someone would go with that. But no, we're talking about heart centered ritual that
Yeah.
creates freedom, and you're setting an intention, and you'll be creating more consciousness around an issue or a problem. And you're consciously saying, I want to let this go. So they're incredibly powerful.
Mm, for sure, for sure.
Mm.
And I think kind of there's a few different techniques in there for people that just help them to to realize, to let loose, hang back. Certainly, I'd recommend. You've described the approaches that you would take there. If this is something that you're struggling with, or you want to explore, reach out to Jen. Reach out to Jen. Really, really sage knowledge there. Oh, Jen's really frozen now, so I'm going to have to edit this bit
Oh,
out.
oh, hello. Sorry, I think we just lost our connection for a minute. Then
Yeah, that's okay.
that's
I'll go
me
back
though.
and
I think
re-record
it's
that bit.
yeah, I think that's me.
Yeah. Um, but if you're a member of the audience and this is resonating with you, or it's something you just want to, you want to take a fresh start at, you got going into a fresh relationship, or you're reaching a milestone in your life, and you just want to, wholeheartedly move into that. Reach out to Jen. Describe the very, very brief light summary of the work that's involved, but it is hugely moving. It's it's very effective.
And healthy relationships start with you and the
Mm.
relationship you have to yourself, which is what we'll be talking about in our next episode on the 14th of February.
Is there something happening then? I
I
don't
don't
know.
know, something
Oh, it rings a
bell.
bell.
Yeah, it does ring a bell somewhere.
Okay. So,
Brilliant.
however love shows up in your life, whether it be love for yourself, love with your partner, old love, new love, love with the world around us, I wish you the very best of this month. Very best of this month.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yeah, maybe. And I like that. I just think, coming from maybe setting an intention that this month, and not just this month, but you want to be more mindful and have that compassion and grace for yourself and others and come more from your heart.
Show your love. Yeah.
Yeah. Share and show your love. Yes.
Aw, I love you.
I
I
love
love
you
hanging
too.
out. Okay.
Yeah.
So, so to everybody, um, like, share, give us your reviews. Yeah, we do genuinely love hearing from you. Not just the tree end, but we
Yes.
love this feedback, and we love helping you wherever you are in your journey. Helping you to thrive is
Mm.
what we're here for.
Yeah, absolutely. Marvelous. Thank you so much, Claire. It was lovely to be with you. Mwah. Thank you,
Lovely.
audience. Thank you, listeners, viewers. See you soon.